to nullify our democracy. But no need for fighting. Don't fight, don't riot. It's not necessary. Just point out. I thank you. I wish you good luck.
Addressing the nation in regards to the fight against the COVID-19. Well, in his very words, he says that those who behave recklessly now will now reap what they sow. So it definitely looks like the onus is upon us to protect ourselves from this pandemic, to wear our mask, to maintain social distance. According to the president, it is time for individual and group behavior. So the government, according to him, says that it has done enough to sensitize the masses, to let them know about what should be done to avoid this pandemic. And as always, the president definitely gave a recap of the different measures that have been put in place ever since the country registered its very first COVID-19 case, and moved on to say that different sectors of the economy have been going to be opened, those that were still closed. Now we're going to dive into straight away to the different places that he mentioned. Majority of us have been asking, when are schools going to open? When are the churches going to open? And the president actually talked about these particular places that people needed to see open. So we start with the schools. Schools are now going to be opened for candidate classes, that is P7, Senior 4, Senior 6, and also finalists at university and tertiary institutions. Well, for you who's at home, who's a Senior 3 student, Senior 2, Senior 1 or Senior 5, and maybe you're also not a finalist at a university or in a tertiary institution, your fate will be decided in January 2021. So that is pretty much what he said in regards to schools, and he said there's going to be a lot of social distance learning. There are questions, but we hope that as we move on, there will be some clarifications on how this is going to be done. Are the students ready to go back to school? The different SOPs, have they been put in place? Are the teachers enough? So all these different questions need to be answered as we go on, as we wait for 15th October to see all the candidates return to school and also the finalists return to school. Now that's pretty much what you should know about the schools. And also for you that belong to the private schools, the president was very clear that he knows that you've been clearly doing this for business and you've also been affected. So there's been a 20 billion grant. He says it is in your circles, it's not a loan, it is a grant. So you can definitely come together and find a way to benefit from this grant. So there you have it. He said the candidate classes return to school because it is a small number, that is 1.2 million students out of the 15 million students in the country. So the number is a bit small, and he hopes that with this they'll be able to address some of the issues that could affect the young people staying at home, because he believes that if they wait for 2021 and they have 2021 finalists and those of 2020, will they be able to handle? Well, we move away from schools and we go right away to churches. You've also been asking, when are churches going to open? Religious leaders have been putting pressure on the government. Other people have been asking if we are seeing the NRM, in the NRM primaries, people are gathering in large numbers. Why are they refusing to open the churches? Well, he says, you can now go to church, but the number is limited to 70 people. The question, however, remains, who gets to go to church and who doesn't go to church? All these will be, of course, finding out how it is going to be done later on. The students, sorry, I beg your pardon, the children should not be taken to Sunday school. So parents are urged, go to church, but leave your children at home until this deadly disease is defeated. So churches are open for to a maximum of 70 people. So do have that at the back of your minds. International also, you've had questions in regards to travel. Entry will need to be tested 72 hours before coming in, and the tourists will be taken straight from the airport to their destinations. So the returning Ugandans need to have tested negative, and if you're negative, you'll be allowed to go home, and the Ministry of Health will try as much as possible to follow up on the progress once you're back at home. So there you have it on international transport, border movement restrictions to be lifted. And by the way, also the president made it clear that he was very disappointed at those that thought the COVID-19 pandemic is not real, because clearly with the numbers that we're having, 63 people dying and over 6,000 cases of COVID-19 confirmed in the country, it is clear that we have a deadly virus amidst us, and it is time for all of us to come together to find solutions to this. Now to you, my people, who probably were waiting to hear the president say that bars are open, to be open. Sad news for you, the bars to remain closed. The president says that you can buy your alcohol and drink at home, get drunk at home. So bars remain closed until further analysis. Well, curfew is going to be maintained, and remember the curfew was from 6 in the morning to 9 p.m. so it is maintained, and for the border riders, do remember that your curfew stops at 6 p.m. I already mentioned about places of worship, open air activity for the sports fans. It is about time that we started to enjoy sports without spectators. So for the athletes, for the basketball ballers, you've been told that it is time to enjoy sports without spectators. Us will watch you at home. Well, so much as hotels to continue, restaurants should emphasize takeaways, mobile markets to remain closed, mass gatherings are prohibited, saying that some people had started using the recently concluded primaries to actually violate the standard operating procedures. So you are reminded that mass gatherings are prohibited. So that's pretty much what the president said, and we'll continue to update you on these and so much more on our social media platforms, and we'll give you more details on these stories as they continue to develop. Well, let us now dive straight into a bulletin tonight. We know that by now you have probably seen pictures on social media of the burning of the Ivory Tower, and of course different people have come forward to talk about how this has affected them. And as we speak, different security agencies led by the police are now investigating the cause of a fire that ravaged the main building at Makerere University last night. Known to many as the Ivory Tower, the damaged building hosted several offices, including the Directorate of Human Resource, Directorate of Finance, Public Relations, as well as the Internal Audit Office. Well, Walter Mwesigye was there and now gives us a deep analysis of what happened there today.
The first alert seen on social media about a fire outbreak at Makerere University was at around 1 a.m. When we arrived at the scene, about 30 minutes later, the flames had engulfed the entire wing of the iconic tower and then spread to the left wing, burning the entire top floor. The firefighters were present, trying all they could to save the property.
Deep down. Enough constant supply of water.
I haven't heard anything regarding as how the fire began. The water has not been enough, but they have been improvising. Other fire brigade, I've seen around 4 trucks.
Lack of fire hydrants within the university. The easiest, nearest one is around the estates area. There have not been enough provisions or ways that have been put across that in case of such emergencies or in such cases of crisis, that emergency help can reach out to such places like this one.
For more than 5 hours, the police fire brigade used over 10 trucks to try and put out the fire that raised the Ivory Tower, one of the iconic buildings here at Makerere University. According to Professor Barnabas Nawangwe, the Vice-Chancellor, the extent of the damage is enormous, but cannot be precisely quantified right away.
Of course, we have lost all the records on the site. We don't have the fire. Apparently, it started in the roof. It could be a fire, an electrical problem.
By the break of dawn, some of the people who had offices in the building were seen trying to salvage some items, while others were left in shock. Later, Education Minister Janet Museveni met with selected officials, including the Director of Criminal Investigations, Grace Akulo, at the university's Freedom Square. The Permanent Secretary at the Ministry, Alex Kakoza, then addressed the media on her behalf.
First Lady and Minister of Education has also requested that those investigations are expedited. So after the investigations and determining possibly the cause of fire, we all expect to go into the structural analysis to know, as you have seen the building, we see some cracks in a number of walls. We want to do an analysis to know whether what part of the building can be salvaged and what has to be rebuilt right from the foundation.
The iconic tower, one of the UNESCO World Heritage Sites, may be rebuilt with time, but it remains unclear how the institution intends to recover any information that was not yet backed up in the digital database. Walter Mwesije.
On this history of Makere University's main building is clearly well documented. Historians have revealed that the now iconic white building with its easily recognizable blue shutters, once a small administrative building at what is now known as a school education. However, there is also fear that the failure to restore the main building to its previous glory might spell the end of what has come to be known as the Ivory Tower.